The Auburn Tigers take it to the Kentucky Wildcats in Lexington. First time in 38 years? That's crazy. Welcome on into this special live edition of Locked On Auburn. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and of course, he is Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend. In a bizarre game, on a bizarre broadcast, a bizarre situation, everything went Auburn's way. And it wasn't a luck thing. It wasn't a fluke thing. I mean, Auburn dominated this game in ways that they don't typically dominate games, but the defense, and Darrell, we talked about this throughout the week. I thought the mismatch was, Kentucky's been killing it on offense, but I really think Auburn's defense is going to do something. And they did it exactly what they needed to do. I mean, Kentucky was turning it over at will, but the big thing, despite all this chaos, Darrell, Auburn wins a share of the SEC tournament or the SEC regular season championship in arguably the strongest conference in the history of college basketball.
This is the most impressive win of the year for me. And I'm just, first of all, when you haven't won at Rupp since Darrell Dapprich was a sophomore in college, that says something. Second of all, you do that with your best player and the National Player of the Year with 1 point at halftime. 1 point. And you win by 16. I mean, on the road at a place that you haven't won in so long. And your starting point guard doesn't play for 3/4 of the game, who, let's be honest, is your best off-the-ball defender and one of your best three-point shooters. And you still do that? This is the most impressive win of the season. And I'm telling you, Miles Kelly, deserves a ton of credit. We'll get into specifics and individuals, but as a whole, what this team did today without two of its better players performing at a level, one because of injury, one just getting going late, is historical. It really is.
Yeah, and I don't really care that much about the storyline of it being forever since we've won there. I mean, I don't know, maybe they care, but the way they responded, because, this would have been a prime opportunity for you to not play your best. And I don't think Auburn did play their best, actually. But this would have been a game where a lot of people were kind of saying, this might be one of the ones that trips Auburn up. But this team doesn't care about that. I said it throughout, the week. This team seems to play better in environments where the stakes feel a little bit higher. Nothing against Neville. Obviously, Neville's an incredible home court advantage. The numbers back that up. But what this team has been able to do in Maui or in Houston or in Tuscaloosa and now in Lexington, this is where this team plays their best basketball. Is in environments where, hey, a lot of these folks may be rooting against you or the moment feels larger. These guys step up.
Oh, that's a great point. I think that the Arkansas and Georgia games, especially at home, Auburn played at a certain level that was good enough to win. With Ole Miss coming in and being ranked, and Auburn played at a different level. They played at a completely different level today. And I want to push back on something. I completely understand where you're coming from, where you say, I don't know if it's that big of a narrative that they haven't won there since 1988, or if anybody, if the team cares. I think Bruce Pearl cares. I don't know if the team that I get it, that is young and doesn't even know, wasn't even born back then. But what has turned Auburn basketball around a lot is what the fan base and what's happened at Neville Arena, and that fan base care. The people that have been through all the Kentucky, woodshed games since 1988, even when Auburn went to the Final Four. It is a big thing.
It's like the fifth most interesting thing right now to talk about this game. Winning the SEC, Miles Kelly and Tahad absolutely popping off.
Yeah.
What happened with the broadcast? I can't wait to talk about that in a few minutes. But sure, yeah, that's great. But let's make it about this team. Let's don't make it about the 38 years where Auburn couldn't win.
But it is about this team. It is about this team because it's
really focusing on things that I don't think matter right now. But go ahead.
But I'm saying
if you want to do this, go ahead.
Let me just make the argument as to why I think so. The reason why it's about this team is because you and I have said for a couple of weeks, if there's ever a team that's mature enough, veteran enough, is going to stop this madness and end this streak, it's going to be this team. And when this team does it, it speaks volumes and it makes a statement about how good this team is. So I think they're related is all I'm saying.
All right, Miles Kelly was electric today. I mean, absolutely incredible. 10 of 17 from the floor, 9 of 14 from 3. I mean, so he made 5 really quick, and then he kept shooting. I think he missed his next 3, and I'm like, Miles, like, okay, like, hold on. And then he got hot again. It was insane. It was absolutely insane what Miles Kelly did today.
Miles Kelly it's the exact reason why you went and got him. It's what he lived up to, all the, you go get a guard like this, what he can do for you down the stretch. Again, we keep bringing up the past, but we said at some point he was going to have to be a guy that was your player of the game and go off. And that was this game today on the biggest stage.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then obviously Tahad, you and I talked about Tahad throughout the week. He was incredible. He was incredible. Scored 21. The way he did it too, getting to the free throw line, I don't know if I would have predicted that. When I was talking about him scoring, 17 or 18 points, I would have thought he was him getting hot.
Yeah.
But he a little bit different style than what we've seen from Tahad, which I don't think is a bad thing.
He exceeded what we predicted. Now, we both said, fair credit, because when we're wrong, we say it, we own it. We both said we felt like this was going to be a Tahad Pettiford game on the biggest stage in a venue like Rupp. And man, did he absolutely make us look prophetic. But I think I said 17 or 18. You said 17 or 18. I can't remember which one. And he exceeded that. And part of that is because, let's be honest, Denver Jones not playing his normal minutes gave Tahad a lot more of an opportunity. But man, did he ever make the most of it. And that's what big-time players do. They step up. They take advantage of their opportunities.
33 minutes for Tahad. Awesome. Awesome stuff. And then Chad was, especially starting him off. Chad is, especially when Janai's not popping, like Chad is typically the engine that makes this thing go. And that was certainly the case. That was certainly the case tonight too.
Argument could be made. 2 of his best games back-to-back all year. He has now stacked 2 really, really good basketball games back-to-back where it could be the highlight of his year as far as how he's played in 2 consecutive games. That's what you want to do. You don't want to have one really good game and then disappear. He has stacked these, and at this point, that was huge. It was huge, especially with the way Chaney, our front court, Zach had 1 point at halftime. 1 point from the front court. Chaney, Broom, and Cardwell. Me and you only had 1 point less than our front court had in that game today in the first half. And we were up by 15. That's when I knew, not that I'm like, a savant basketball analyst, but I had a pretty good feeling that this could be Auburn's day when you're up 15 and your front court has 1 point.
No kidding. Oh man. Okay. Let's, I want to discuss, there's still so much to discuss. Let's jump into what in the world happened to ABC. And that's a major unforced error. We'll jump into that, player of the game, how Auburn finishes the season. All that's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to play fantasy sports, and I had a few texts throughout the game of folks getting involved with Prize Picks for this game today. If you would have listened to us, I'm sure you would have taken Tahad Pettiford. Hopefully you took Chad Baker-Mazara. Miles Kelly, I didn't see 30 coming from Miles Kelly, but yeah, the over hit for several Auburn Tigers. I imagine the over did not hit for Janai. I bet that messed some people up. But head over to Prize Picks. Right now, you can download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. ABC, what are you doing? What in the world are you doing? The way this is, the way these ABC broadcasts late in the season happen is if you're chosen, all of the press and the media around you is like, oh my goodness, ABC is going to be carrying our team's game. It's some major thing. It's cool to be on national TV, I guess. I think that's a bigger deal. It used to be a bigger deal than it is now. You still press the same buttons to get to the game. It's not like, it used to all be on some, network television a long time ago, the way streaming is, but it's still all this stuff. What? I think it's it's not as big now as it used to be.
I relate to that comment is all I'm saying. I can relate to what you're saying, brother.
Yeah, and like I'm not going to go into like the conspiracy theories or whatever that's happening on X or whatever. However, like they are kind of fun to read, but how in the world in this massive, massive game that you have where you could potentially see somebody win your conference or a share of it and nobody got to see it unless you were there? And I thought it would just be like a 5-minute thing. They never went back to it.
No, look, first of all, I've not been a fan of ABC for a very long time for a lot of different reasons. So that there's a couple particular shows that don't, and for one of those shows to have a promo in the middle of it was just added salt to the wound. Second of all, I knew when I saw that this game tipped at 12 and the Penguins and Bruins were scheduled to play at 2. I'm like, well, that's stupid. This game's not going to be over by 2. No way. Right. It's the same thing they do when they stack college basketball games. No way. So don't hate on the hat. It's a Pirate hat, not a Penguins hat. But there's no way that game's going to be over in 2 hours. No way. And, of course, 2.5 hours and just ridiculous, unacceptable. I don't know how that happens. I did do a little deep dive and I saw somebody that's an ABC producer talk about they had a generator problem go out. But I'm sorry, you are ABC. You've been around. Yeah, exactly. ABC has been around as long as I can remember as a broadcasting network. You're not talking about, a local channel that's an SEC network that's ABC has been around forever, and you can't figure out how to put a game back on the air?
That's crazy. It's crazy to me. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. And then you see these reports like Janai took himself out. He's in the locker room. Like, what?
You hear shoulder? You hear shoulder?
No.
I know.
We don't know what it looked like because it wasn't on TV. It's like, goodness gracious. What an unforced error by ABC. Absolutely insane stuff. Absolutely insane. All right. Do we want to do this? Do we want to do player of the game? Is this worth?
Let's just go through let's go through through the semantics of it, but let's do it.
Yeah. Like if it's not Miles Kelly, the guy who scored 30 points, the guy who went 9 of 14 from 3, it's like, how is it not? I don't know. I mean, Chad was awesome. Dahad was awesome. But yeah, I mean, Miles Kelly was special today.
He did it in different pockets of the game, too. He got Auburn out to a big lead. And then I think when Kentucky – I never really felt like this game was in danger, to be honest with you. But when Kentucky cut it to 12 or 14 or whatever, he'd come down and hit a 3, and it would just be a dagger. It would take their soul. And so those are the kind of moments – man, I love it. And the kid's been driving to the basket, too. He's been really – kind of rounding out his game. I watched him defend really good the other night against Ole Miss. I just, again, I can't say enough about him, and people will understand how important this guy is going to be when tournament time comes around. What a great get for Auburn.
How about this? Gabrielle says Andy Burcham is player of the game for turning the camera around when ABC dumped the broadcast. That's where I watched the last few minutes, was on the Auburn Sports Network. They do an outstanding job. So yeah, that was great. There were like 7,000 or 8,000 people there. It was pretty fun. So
that was a pro move right there. Great move by Andy.
Yeah. So the Auburn record for threes in a game is 10. Apparently, do you know who that is? Have you seen that anywhere? I was trying to think I was trying to think who it could possibly be.
That's a great point. First of all,
chat, if you know that, let us know.
Because it had to happen from 1987 on. Okay, so let's talk about that. So was it Wesley person? Maybe that's a guess that I have. Bryce Brown, Lance Weems, maybe. I think Lance Weems went off, and he was a really good 3-point shooter. Yeah, Scotty Pullman. Those are the 4 candidates that it could be. Any one of those. Justin Powell. That's hilarious.
Probably not Justin Powell.
Probably not Justin Powell.
Probably not. Yeah. Maybe could have been. I don't know. Okay. And then as far as what's left for Auburn this season, obviously heading to College Station. Is that Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday, 8:00. We got one more 8:00 tip, Dap. We got one more 8:00 tip. And then obviously they'll host Alabama Saturday in a game that may not even matter. which is.
Can I give you a hypothetical? I'm going to throw a hypothetical out to you, and I want people in the live chat to respond to this too. If Alabama loses to Tennessee in a couple hours and Auburn wins it outright, because you don't want to share crap, you want it done.
Especially not this year.
No. Do you not play Denver or even perhaps Janai to rest that shoulder against Texas A&M so they're both fresh and ready to go for Alabama next Saturday?
I don't know. I don't know how you handle that. This team seems like they want to win out. And like that, is that important to them? Does that help? I mean, I don't know. Like we've talked about this before with other sports where like, if you get extra rest, it kind of throws you out of your rhythm. Like, do you risk that happening? I don't know how you do that.
There's a difference between just sitting guys to get rest and load management and sitting guys that are injured, though, is what I'm saying. You see what I'm saying? And so with Denver having an ankle issue and Janai having –
I was about to ask, are you thinking about people specifically? So Denver and Janai?
Denver and Janai that both left the game due to injury. I believe Denver probably would have went back in if Auburn wasn't up 16-20, the whole time. I think he probably would have. Janai did go back in. But I'm just saying, with Janai still playing on a little bit of a hobbly ankle and Denver having an ankle issue and Janai leaving the game with a shoulder, if everything is clinched when we lay our heads on the pillow tonight, do we, just for the sake of it's on the road against A&M, rest two dudes? Because it's all about Auburn. I don't give a crap about where anybody else fit. It's about what's best for Auburn. Do you rest them so they're completely healthy come Saturday against Alabama? Just hypothetically throwing it out.
I don't think it's the worst idea in the world. I don't know if Bruce will do it, though. I think I'd be surprised if they did it, but I'd have no issue at all if they did it.
I think it's, a situation.
Think Bruce would do it?
I don't think he would. And I think it's because the way this team is so competitive and how they're wired. Like Broom came back, in my opinion, both the first time with the shoulder and the second time with the ankle, both a lot earlier than I thought he would. And that's because, remember the Purdue game? We're like, hey, there's no reason for him to play. It's non-conference. Wait till he's like, no, I'm playing, and he dropped 21. This team is so competitive. And I think Broom wanting that Wooden Award and all that, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just an interesting take to throw out there to think about, because I ain't going to lie to you, it crossed my mind.
Yeah, how could it not at this point? How could it not? But that's only if Alabama loses later, right?
Correct. Yeah, you don't want to share nothing, and you dang sure don't want to share, because the only team you could share this title with now is Alabama, period. And that's the last thing in the world you want to do.
Where are you on there's a lot of folks that now say the SEC tournament doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an argument to rest during that time. Where are you in that? Because I want them to win the SEC tournament.
I think that winning the regular season conference title and then on top of that, winning the SEC tournament is one of the hardest things to do in sports. Yeah, and Auburn and Auburn hasn't done that, and somebody else that should remain unnamed has, and it kind of gets under my, a little burr in my saddle. So if you're Auburn, you absolutely try to win that tournament and continue to get the, double up on that, show pure dominance. Now, will it matter? No. I just personally believe that if Auburn wins one of their last two, they're the number one overall seed, regardless of what happens in the SEC tournament. And oh, by the way, nothing that happens in the SEC tournament ever matters. It never has an impact. It doesn't move you a seed line or drop you a seed line. So, it's nice to have another championship.
And they say it matters. They say that the first few games matter or whatever, but unless you're on the bubble and you win it, it's like, okay, you might get an automatic bid, but that hasn't happened lately. So to me, I'm there with you. There's always this narrative of, okay, win 2 games, you might move up a seed line, but it never seems to actually happen.
Do you want to know the biggest reason why it doesn't? And I was told this by an official who I trust, is that the SEC needs to, if they ever want it to matter, they need to move their tournament up a day. Because by the time Sunday afternoon rolls around, they can say whatever they want. That bracket's pretty much done.
Yeah.
And so the tournaments that end on Saturday have a more impact on seeding when the selection committee comes out on Sunday. But the SEC, it's done at like 4:00 in the afternoon on Sunday, and they start releasing crap at 6.
Right.
I mean, come on.
I mean, I guess you could do a few like hypothetical things, like if so-and-so goes on a, but there's just so many teams. Like they're not going to do that.
No, it's mute. It's a moot point. Yeah.
Right. All right, let's play the game. What is Auburn's record over the final 2 games of the season? Them going to Texas A&M and them hosting Alabama. I say they go 2-0.
I'm going to say it's contingent. It's going to contingent about what happens in 2 hours.
Okay. Got it.
Because if there is a scenario where they rest a couple people against A&M, then I could see Auburn splitting. And I'm okay with that if they do that. But if they don't, and Alabama wins against Tennessee, and you've got to win one of the last 2 to win the outright championship, Auburn goes 2-0.
Yeah. It's exciting stuff, man. It's exciting stuff. This team is special. I mean, we've talked about this a few times, and we kind of haven't talked about it in probably about a month because it's kind of implied at this point. But there are just stretches, and it usually happens when it's an elevated moment. Like I think we all kind of thought this when we were at Tuscaloosa. Certainly saw it in the first half today, especially when they get hot. Like this team can win a national championship. Like this team is good enough to win a national championship. And you just don't really feel that too often. And it's just really fun to kind of live in the moment of that.
It's a great point. It's hard to kind of verbalize what I want to say. It's just a feeling. It's a feeling you get that you sometimes can't really describe why it's different from other years. You can't define it. And just to follow up with a chat comment, I completely understand that Alabama has to beat Florida as well in order for them to win the thing outright. But I'm just saying that today it could be over. It could be over in 4 hours, and that would be nice to have this wrapped up. But this team, I think when I started feeling like this team could be really, really different is when they did what they did in Maui. I know that's early.
Pretty early on,
But after beating Houston on the road, when they had those 3 sets of games in Maui, and at the time I think we felt like North Carolina was going to be better, although they've gotten on a little bit of a run. And then the way they absolutely boat raced Purdue and Ohio State, who are not bad basketball teams, you start to get a feeling that, this could be the year. And you can't define what makes it different. I think to me, if someone put a gun to my head and said, Darrell, what's different between this team and the teams that looked really, really good and then got beat in the second round? I would say balance. There was always a what if, like the Auburn teams that had really, really good guards, their front court was lacking. So if the guards didn't get hot, and then the teams that had really good front courts a few years ago had not really good back courts with Kessler and Jamal. This team has both. It's balanced, it's deep, and it's veteran. It has a lot of experience and has a lot of seniors, and I think that makes the difference.
And then composure, too. I mean, how many times have we had really good teams, but they couldn't shoot away from Neville? And it's like every time there was a neutral site game or on the road, it's just we had to survive. This team, they bask in it. They bask in the pressure of being away from home. And I don't know if there has been another Bruce Pearl team that has done it at this level.
This team absolutely thrives. The bigger the moment, the better they play. There is no moment so far this season that's been too big for them. They don't shy away from it. They love it. They absolutely welcome it. It's like they thrive in it. And so that's good because that's what you want come tournament time. And I think too, look, we've said this. I hate going back to we said this, but sometimes it's good to kind of remind. This is a team that can beat you if the game stays in the 50s.
Sure.
And this is a team that can beat you if you want to get in the hundreds. Now, I said to you that if Auburn can hold Kentucky in the low 70s, they would win this game going away. And Kentucky did get 78, but my God, Auburn got in the 90s and probably could have had more. So this team can beat you a variety of ways, and I like the depth. I think that there are players on this team that you look at and say, they are an essential. They're a must to win a championship. You got to have A, or you got to have B, or you can talk all you want about the National Player of the Year.
Right.
But this team's not where it's at without the way Chad Baker-Mazara has been playing, or how Miles Kelly stepped up, or Denver Jones, or big game Tahad in the big games. All those things change the whole trajectory of this season and this team.
Yep. No question. No question. Exciting stuff. The Tigers are SEC champs, and the curse is broken with Auburn going to Rupp. Darrell, how can people check out everything that you've got going on?
You can follow me on X, Dap6410, Instagram, Darrell Dapp, Wednesdays and Fridays with you on Locked On Auburn. And then we go live, which is going to be an incredible run for the rest of this year.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. We'll be live after every single bit of it. Please like the video and subscribe. And if you're checking us out on audio, please subscribe there and leave us a 5-star review. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.